Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to Kamna TV Media News. I am Precious Mzea. Saka the headlines. Government fires resident doctors president after PF directive. ECL eligibility judgment reserved for Friday. Join me with the media news in detail after this commercial.
Has revived Kawagwa Tea Company, which was non-functioning before the PF government assumed office. This is meant to promote industrialization and job creation. So far, the company has employed 850 people, with the majority being women. Vote Edgar Chagwa Lungu and the PF that have brought you change.
And now the media news in detail. Resident Doctors Association of Zambia President Dr. Brian Sampa has been fired from government. In a letter addressed to him, government has cited willful absconding from work for 10 days, which guarantees a dismissal from the civil service. Dr. Sampa has been leading the recent go-slow by the doctors in a bid to press for salary arrears and settling in allowances and employing at least 500 doctors.
Dr. Brian Sampa, leader of the Resident Doctors Association, has been dismissed from the civil service, who had his license initially suspended, according to the Health Professions Council of Zambia. In a letter addressed to him as a junior resident medical officer employed on the 25th of March 2019, has been fired in a layman's language with effect from 1st June 2021. This means he has only served government for 2 years. The letter cites the condition of Public Service Number 60A as raised with the disciplinary code and procedure for handling offences in the Public Service Number 21A and 3. Dr. Sampa has been instrumental in demanding for better conditions of service, leading to a go-slow that went on for at least 6 days. Dr. Sampa has confirmed this development to Camnet TV.
The thing is that I still remain the president of the Resident Doctors Association of Zambia. And if this is meant to intimidate and deter me from fighting for the cause of the doctors, then it's misplaced. Because we as an association, we shall continue fighting. These personal problems will not deter us from fighting. We are not shaken, and the battle shall continue until the doctor's plight is heard. And we wish to state here that the membership shouldn't even feel bad about this. This is but one person, but we've got bigger problems we are dealing with. So we'll focus on ensuring that all those demands which were made earlier, before the go-slow was called off, are met. And we are due to review the outcome of the 2 weeks window which was given to the government. So for now, this is the news which is there, and it's not something which we should worry about. Only death is going to stop us from fighting for the voiceless.
However, this dismissal comes a few days after Patriotic Front Media Director Antonio Mwanza called on the authorities to dismiss all protesting doctors and hire people who would serve the interests of the people.
Not sit aside and look while the lives of the Zambian people, the lives of the patients to which these doctors are vowed to save, are being lost. Because these doctors don't want to work, even after they have been paid. We therefore call upon the government to quickly move in and dismiss all the resident doctors who are on strike.
Could this be the reason Dr. Sampa has been fired or not? But when contacted today for a comment, Antonio Mwanza said Dr. Sampa was not an enemy in this whole process.
We are not having a fight with Dr. Sampa. We are not having a fight with Dr. Sampa. We are fighting for sanity. So Dr. Sampa is not really an issue.
Sharon Kalimbola, Camnet News, Lusaka.
In In other news, the Constitutional Court has reserved Friday this week as a day to render its judgment pertaining to a petition challenging the nomination of PF presidential candidate Edgar Lungu to contest in this year's elections. This is in a case where Chapter 1 Foundation Limited, Legal Resources Limited and Dr. Sishua are challenging the nomination of Mr. Lungu on grounds that it contravenes Article 1063 of the Constitution because he has held office twice, adding that standing again would mean him going for a third term.
The Constitutional Court was on Monday afternoon, fully packed with people who came to listen to the petition challenging the nomination of President Edgar Lungu to contest in this year's elections. This is one of the cases that has brought a lot of debate, with many people coming on board to challenge his eligibility. Among those cases is that in which Chapter 1 Foundation Limited, Legal Resources Foundation Limited and Dr. Sishua are challenging the nomination of President Edgar Lungu on ground that it contravenes Article 1063 of the Constitution because he has twice held office. The petitioners argue that President Lungu had contravened the said article the moment he filed in his nomination papers with the returning officer, supported by an affidavit stating that he is qualified to contest as a presidential candidate in the general elections. This afternoon, the Constitutional Court sat to hear the case from the parties involved in the matter, with counsel representing the three petitioners, John Sangwa, submitting that President Edgar Lungu, who is standing on the PF presidential candidate ticket, violated Article 1063 of the Constitution, and in simple terms, he is not eligible to stand for a third term. According to him, Article 1063 prevents one from standing for a third term, and lawyers representing President Lungu argued that the court had already given a ruling in the Danny Pule and Bumpy Kapalasa case concerning his eligibility, and submitted that the court dismissed the petition with cause. But counsel John Sangwa argued that the court has never ruled on the eligibility of President Lungu, but rather all the petitions were seeking interpretation. He submitted that this petition at hand is alleging the contravention of the Constitution, unlike the Kapalasa and Danny Pule case, which was merely seeking interpretation. He further submitted that the merit of the petition has been demonstrated and prayed that their relief that President Lungu nomination papers be quashed is granted. The court will this week Friday make its judgment in the matter. Miriam Kemba, Community TV News.
Movement for Multi-Party Democracy MMD President Dr. Mevas Mumba has warned that Zambia risks joining the list of failed states if the right leadership is not ushered into government after the August 12th general elections. He says the MMD is the right party to take Zambia to greater heights through credible leadership that abides by Christian principles. Speaking during the launch of the party campaign themed A Fresh Start, Dr. Mumba vowed to deal with politicization of public institutions. He says the last 10 years have left the country more divided in political and tribal lines, with high debts, inflation and the weakest currency since Zambia's independence.
The Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, MMD, also known as the Blues, and if it was in the English Premier League, it would be likened to Chelsea and the one to be counted in the title race to be held on August 12. Dr. Mumba is leading the MMD squad with an emphasis to rebuild the country based on honesty and integrity beyond political and ethnic lines. He warned that failure to usher in the right leadership may see the country becoming a failed state.
That shall have no unruly cadres, as all Zambians shall be treated the same. It is a government where bus stations and markets shall belong to all Zambians and not to one political party and its cadres. It is a government where people from both opposition and ruling parties shall have equal access to save my nation from this dysfunction. Until this is done, Zambia joins the list of many failing African states. I am running for president this year to become the torchbearer to forever change the politics and the direction of our nation. And this I promise.
Dr. Mumba says corruption is killing more Zambians as opposed to COVID-19. Hence, Zambia must be looking for a corruption vaccine and not COVID-19 vaccine, which is said his political party will secure when voted into office. Speaking during the launch of the party's campaign in Osaka Monday, themed A Fresh Start, Pastor Mumba says judges and magistrates will get double the punishment for engaging in corruption.
In this case, it shall not be less than 30 years in jail, and for the most part, there will be life sentences. These measures shall give Zambia a fresh start. I want you to understand this. These measures shall give Zambians a fresh start. But we cannot only charge these corrupt people. If we find any judge, any magistrate who gets corrupted to free the corrupt, he gets double the price as a judge for indulging himself in high-level corruption.
He says in the last 10 years, Zambia has been taken backwards.
The last 10 years has left us with depleted national coffers. The last 10 years has left us as a national debt, with a national debt unheard of since independence. The last 10 years has left us with the weakest currency ever since independence. The last 10 years has left us with the most expensive essential commodity prices against the backdrop of depleted jobs and less income amongst our people. Against this background, the New Hope MMD promises a fresh start.
The August 12 general elections are tightly contested, and certainly Zambians will have a wide variety of political parties to choose from in this year's elections. Remember, your vote is your choice and your vote is your secret. Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
The World Health Organization, government and other stakeholders have encouraged smokers to not smoke for 24 hours in an effort to make every day a no tobacco day. Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary Dr. Kennedy Malama says smoking in public is a serious infringement of the rights of those who do not smoke. Dr. Malama says the government revised the anti-smoking law to ban smoking in public, whose enforcement should be supported by all. The Permanent Secretary said this when he officiated the virtual World No Tobacco Day commemoration, which falls on the 6th of June every year. And Dr. Malama states that smokers are likely to be more vulnerable to COVID-19 as the act of smoking exposes fingers and possibly contaminated cigarettes when they come in contact with the lips.
That we bring this evidence to our young people that shisha is as bad as the tobacco use on our health. I wish to emphasize that pollution of air due to tobacco smoke is a serious infringement on the rights of those who do not smoke. It is from this background that the government of the Republic of Zambia revised the anti-smoking laws to ban smoking in public places, and we need to collectively support the enforcement of the existing laws, as every person has a right to breathe tobacco-free air. Further, let me assure stakeholders that government remains committed to considering and tabling the Tobacco Control Bill once all consultations are exhausted and the roadmap remains very clear. To protect young people from initiating tobacco use, it's important to show them pictorial graphic health warnings depicting the dangers of tobacco products. Focus should also be placed on protecting young people from early exposure to tobacco products. And we do have evidence-based high-impact interventions which can be used to prevent our young people from initiating smoking. Smokers are likely to be more vulnerable to COVID-19 as the act of smoking exposes fingers and possibly contaminated cigarettes when they come into contact with the lips, which increases the possibility of transmission of the virus from the hand to the mouth. Further, smoking products such as water pipes often involve sharing of mouthpieces and hoses, which could facilitate the transmission of COVID-19 in communal and social settings. And this applies to the use of shisha, among others.
That news item brings us to the end of Camnet TV Media News, but before we go, here are the headlines once again. Government fires resident doctors president after PF directive. ECL eligibility judgment reserved for Friday. Thank you for joining me. I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. Remember to always wear your mask, wash your hands.